Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Anna Vanston, and I am both titillated and terrified to be theorizing about what the lore is going to be in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie today. FNAF has a dedicated and passionate fan base, and because there's never been one officially verified timeline, disagreements over the lore are pretty common. However, today's speculation is all in good fun, and I ask that everyone keeps it civil in the comments, especially when replying to other commenters. The series has a jump-scaring cupcake in it. It's all in good fun. As a warning up front, this is a full spoilers video. While we obviously don't know what exactly is going to happen in the movie, our speculation is going to be based off of all of the games and will probably touch on things that might happen in the future movies. So to be safe, spoiler alert for all of the games, books, and possibly all 3 movies that are slated as of now. Now settle in while Auntie Anna tells you a story. Not long ago, I thought, you know what would make a good movie? Kingdom Hearts. And this is because they would have the opportunity to clean up that absolute batshit story and just make it simple and clean. And I would bet that's the opportunity Scott is taking as well. Scott has said that when he made the first game, the story wasn't laid out how it exists today since he didn't know it would turn into such a huge thing. And while he tried to stay faithful to the things he established in the first games, there were times he had to change things and retcon too. That's a big part of what makes the story so tangled and hard to parse out. And you have to remember that this movie is going out to the general public. They're already gonna be a little confused why there's a Freddy and a Golden Freddy. So I'm almost certain he has taken this clean slate opportunity to create a completely different canon that's a bit easier to grasp. All that is to say that while we can use the games as a baseline, we cannot take them as law in the slightest. So with that, let's jump into some of the most pressing questions that came with the release of the trailer. So one of the most agreed upon things in the game's lore is that William Afton's family consists of William Afton, his wife who is thus far unnamed, and his children Michael, Elizabeth, and youngest son, the crying child who some theorize is named Evan. With that, let's look at the argument for each side. Starting with the argument for why William Afton is not going to be Mike's dad, one of the biggest reasons is that if Mike gets the night guard job from William, then it would be extremely hard to believe that he wouldn't recognize his dad's face and or voice. Looking at the age that the actor playing young Mike is, he would definitely be old enough to remember what his dad looked and sounded like, even if he was going under the alias Steve Raglan. That is, by the way, definitely an alias. The character's name on IMDb is William Afton, so they haven't changed his name for the movie or anything. Another argument for William not being Mike's son is that in the game, some theories suggest that at the time the first game takes place, William would have already been dead. One theory around the games is that Mike is getting these security guard positions at the restaurants to investigate the locations where his dad murdered people, which would be his reason for staying in the position and coming back night after night, even when possessed animatronics are trying to kill him. In that theorized timeline, William would have already died in the Springlock costume. And while Scott has said that finding a strong enough connection between Mike and the building to make him keep returning was one of the biggest challenges while writing the script, in the movie his reason may be because of his sister, either needing that job to pay his bills and maintain custody over her, or because she forms a connection with Golden Freddy and insists on coming back, or possibly to help Vanessa, which we'll get back to later. The point is, he has more potential reasons to stay than he did in the games, so the father-son connection might not be as important as it was in the games. Finally, rumors were going around that IMDb said that Garrett Hines had been cast in the role of Mike's dad, but I don't think that's true. IMDb doesn't list that gentleman's name or the character at all, and if you're thinking it might have been removed, that's not possible. IMDb doesn't remove factual credits, and it doesn't matter who asks for it to be removed, that's just policy. But now let's look at why he could still be William's son. First of all, it's a pretty juicy little plot twist, and it's a little wild to think that such an integral part of the game's story would be scrapped. And in the first game, Michael Afton is working under the name of Mike Schmidt, so calling the movie character Mike Schmidt and basing the movie on the first game would obviously lead one to think that this would be Michael Afton. Though it's very possible that Mike himself believes his actual name to be Mike Schmidt and doesn't know of his connection to William at all. Need energy? Need it now? That's the job. For one shot. Yum! One-Shot Energy Chews are a healthy and convenient energy boosting supplement candy for gamers, athletes, YouTube hosts, everybody really. One Shot makes energy chews and focus chews, so you can choose if you want to rev up or zone in. Each energy chew has 75 milligrams of pure caffeine plus 600 milligrams of additional nootropics to give you a serious energy boost that works immediately as you chew. The focus chews come in new Rockstars themed packaging. We use them all the time to get a natural boost of focus and energy with B, C, D, and E vitamins, plus zinc to help with immune system support and the amino acid tyrosine. Both energy chews and focus chews are plant-based, naturally sweetened, and designed to give you the energy and focus you need without a bunch of fillers and chemicals. Get started with One Shot Energy today by going to oneshotenergy.com/newrockstars for 10% off your order. Regarding being able to recognize William's face and voice, there are a few different reasons Mike might not. One option is that they may have never talked face to face when Mike is an adult. We haven't gotten footage of them being in the same room together yet. It's only been a phone call. And if you want to get really deep in the weeds, this could be an editing trick where they aren't actually having this conversation with each other or even in the same time period necessarily. To be honest, I don't really think that this is the case, but it's just a reminder that trailers trick us all the time and we have to keep our minds open to the possibilities. But assuming they are talking to each other through the phone, if you haven't seen your dad in years and years and you're on the phone with someone going by a different name, the situation is so out of context that your brain probably wouldn't piece it together. Or William could easily be putting on a fake voice to go with his fake name. Another option is that William might have left the family when Mike was still a baby or even before he was born. We will be getting a younger Mike flashback, but that's not to say that William would have still been in the picture during that flashback era. I'm in my flashback era. But it's possible Mike's mom might have gotten remarried, or that Mike was adopted by foster parents, and that might also explain why his last name is Schmidt instead of Afton. Another thing that might point to William being Mike's dad is the smugness William seems to have when talking to Mike about the job, almost like he's won a game.
Yes.
Now, admittedly, he could just be trying to recruit any random person for the position so he can fulfill his murderous desires, and the smugness might be just a result of him finding a new victim, but it would make a lot of sense if William left the family early on in Mike's life, but continued to keep tabs on him and his sister, purposefully aligning his jobs and aliases up with things he knew would intersect with their lives. And there are a couple of points that could go either way, one being that Abby, who is replacing Elizabeth, is an anagram for baby, an animatronic first seen in Five Nights at Freddy's sister location who is believed to be possessed by Elizabeth. This link could support the argument for them being William's kids, but you could also argue that it supports them not being related to William, since in the games, William made Circus Baby when Elizabeth was still alive and had a close bond with her dad, which clearly isn't the case here. Finally, in the trailer, we see shots where William wears a yellow shirt with a blue tie and Mike wears a blue shirt with a yellow tie. Costuming decisions have a lot of thought put into them, and while I believe this definitely demonstrates a link between them, this could be a familial link or it could be a good versus evil, two sides of the same coin type of deal. Speaking of the Afton family, who is William's youngest son, known colloquially as the crying child? Not gonna lie, at first when I saw the character Young Afraid Boy on IMDb, I thought that had to be him. Young Afraid Boy is like when you copy and paste something off the internet into your essay, but use the thesaurus on all of the words so you don't get caught for plagiarizing. But no, Mike and Abby's brother is definitely the child in the car whose name is Garrett, played by Lucas Grant. His Instagram is filled with pictures of him with the kids playing Abby and young Mike, and if you needed more evidence, Wyatt Parker, who plays young Mike, has the same picture with the caption, "Hanging out with the new best bro." So all evidence points to little brother. Also, this is a good time to point out the difference between looking at what the kids' accounts run by their families are posting and actively bugging them with questions. Please do not harass the child actors or their families about this movie. Do not. But what about the woman on the ground? Is that their mom? That's definitely what I'm leaning towards. I pointed out the newspaper on the table in our breakdown of the trailer, and that's because it looks really purposefully placed in the shot. If the newspaper is purposefully placed, I think she might have ended things after reading about William being a suspect in the missing children's case and maybe knew something, or she might have read about their youngest child dying. I could also see this being related to drugs or alcohol, and it's even possible that she's not dead here and just passed out, perhaps as evidence that she's unfit to care for Abby. Two possibilities I see are Mike, Abby, and Vanessa, clock the blue collared shirt and badge, or maybe Vanessa and her husband and daughter, though I lean more towards the first one since it would be strange to me that they wouldn't be there when she's in the hospital if it were an emergency, since she would likely have her badge and info on her at the time of the injury, or the hospital could contact the police to get her emergency contact info. So I lean towards Abby drawing them as the Three Musketeers of sorts. Since we're on the topic of Vanessa, many people are suspicious that she may be a secret villain in this story. I think this originated from the fact that in FNAF's Security Breach, she's tied to Vanny, the antagonist, though some speculate that isn't actually Vanessa, but regardless, this is where her being the bad guy stems from. And it makes sense. She knows a lot about the pizzeria. Her being there would allow for eyes to be kept on Mike, and she might be intentionally misleading Mike by telling him that the animatronics want to make Abby like them. On the flip side, you could argue that Vanessa is trying to protect Mike by letting him know what's been going on and giving him the heads up that this place is dangerous. She might truly believe that the animatronics' intentions are to make Abby like them, and she seems to be close enough to the siblings for Mike to stay with her at the hospital and Abby to draw a picture of all of them together. It's possible that Vanessa may eventually turn into a bad guy in a future movie, but there's one more reason she may be wanting to help Mike out in this one, and for that, I turn to the ghost children. As I've said in my breakdowns, there's a huge amount of debate over which kid is supposed to represent Freddy and which kid is supposed to represent Golden Freddy in this scene. And it's time to throw my hat in the ring. Assuming that one of them is supposed to be Golden Freddy, it's this kid. Golden Freddy is clearly supposed to stand out in this movie. He's been shown alone with Abby a few times now and is clearly an ally of some sort. These kids back here are all in a line, with this one being the only one standing out. And this kid is Grant Feely, the only one not listed on IMDb yet. All of the others are listed as Ghost Kid number X. Only the one standing out isn't listed. I'm not done. One big thing to note is that Grant had to dye his hair blonde for the film. That is not insignificant. So I think that Grant is playing Vanessa's brother, who was one of the murder victims in the 80s. It explains why Vanessa is still focused on the case, and it sets up a beautiful parallel between Vanessa and Mike working together and Golden Freddy and Abby working together. Sibling power. Now there's one thing that might put a slight wrench in this theory. In the games, Golden Freddy is possessed by a girl named Cassidy, and some believe it is dual possessed by Cassidy and the Crying Child. A big clue being in the first game when Golden Freddy appears, you see "It's me" flash. And if the security guard is Mike, his dead brother saying "It's me" lines up. Now I'm not worried about the Cassidy aspect because Cassidy hasn't even been introduced as a major character in the games or books yet, so replacing her with someone that adds stakes to the story makes all the sense in the world to me. But in the trailer, you can see "It's me" when the lights start flashing, and their brother helping them as Golden Freddy would also make total sense. So maybe it is a dual possession thing, but with Vanessa's brother and Mike and Abby's brother. Who knows? But what I am pretty dang sure of is that Golden Freddy is supposed to stand out, and color of shirt be damned, I really doubt they would be listed as Ghost Child number 4 with the rest of the crew. All that being said, I think the 5 letters together represent the Ghost Children, with the red being Golden Freddy. And as for the one off to the side, this could really be a few people. Abby, Mike, Garrett, potentially Afton even. It's really hard to say for sure. For those who don't know, Spring Bonnie is the name of the spring-lock suit that one could get into, and Springtrap is what the possessed suit is called after William dies. Prior to his death, Spring Bonnie; after death, Springtrap, at least in the games. That being said, this trailer's making it seem like William is still alive and kicking, and the suit's still in pretty decent shape, so I would probably say he's in the Spring Bonnie suit. You can even see a little cheek if you turn up the brightness. But I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the movie he gets killed, and then you have that moment where the camera lingers on the suit, and then all of a sudden the eyes light up purple and it cuts to credits. I'll take my check, please. While the intruders seem to like bit parts who get immediately killed off, they might hold more weight than you think. Kat Sterling, the actress playing Max, said in a TikTok that Max does have a story that ties some things together and affects the outcome of the story. And if we look at Christian Stokes' Twitter, the actor playing Hank, his bio specifically says Uncle Hank. And upon the trailer's release, he tweeted, "Don't rule out old Hank yet, he might surprise you." So what do we think? I'll leave you with that question. Who do you think these characters might be? How does Carl with his cool Midnight Motorist t-shirt fit into all of this? And who would that make the guy in front? I look forward to reading your theories. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at @It'sAnnaVanston, follow and subscribe to New Rockstars at New Rockstars, and hey, if you like live discussions, debates, and reactions to the titles you can't get enough of, be sure to subscribe to our live channel, The Break Room. Keep it fun!